The Hornets break a million records, and then some. It was ridiculous. LaMelo gets a triple-double. Kelly Oubre goes for 39 off the bench. The Hornets score 158 total. Let's try to break it down all today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Local experts on the #1 daily sports podcast network. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available on all platforms. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, where we're getting closer to the 1,000 subscriber mark, which means we are going to paint our face purple and teal. You can subscribe to the podcast wherever you get them, and you can follow us on Twitter. Walker Mail.
Is that fun? Wait a minute. Is that funny to you, Nick?
No, I mean, I said the other week I'd only come back on the podcast if the Hornets scored 150 points. So
nice.
I'm making bad bets too.
Perfect timing. So you can find us on Twitter, Walker Mail, Doug Branson, LOH, Locked On Hornets, and you can find Nick, who was laughing at our humiliation at Nick Carboni, WCNC. I mean, you're going to...
If only I knew somebody that produced television on sports and could find a way to amplify your embarrassment.
Yeah.
And put it on TV.
Yeah.
I'll have to think about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, aren't we supposed to be teammates? And here you are, that you're just going to humiliate us even more so. You're going to put us on television. See, YouTube is a different animal, and then we're going to be on TV as well. It's going to be crazy humiliating. You're going to finagle it somehow, though. I imagine that you're going to be a guest on this show as soon as that happens. Like, it will be
that'll be my slot. Yeah.
You're going to break into the system, make sure subscribers are getting cut down, and then on that 1,000 mark, right before you're supposed to come on that Tuesday, that's what you're going to do. We'll get to that point when we actually reach that mark. Let's go ahead and talk about the Charlotte Hornets game last night. 158 points. So many records broken. We'll try to get to that. LaMelo Ball, phenomenal in this one. Triple-double for him. We'll try to get to all of this. But, man, just to see 158, to see them score, the quarter breakdown is hilarious. Like, 33 in the first. All right, that's pretty good. 38 in the second. All right, that's even better. Wow.
Getting better.
That's amazing point total. 42 in the third. Goodness gracious, what's gotten into this team? And then they score 45 with Kai Jones hitting a three. All right, at that point, it got ridiculous. I don't even know what I watched last night. Nick, can you try to make it make sense to me?
It was like the definition of, boy, that escalated quickly. Because, at halftime, you're wondering, like, okay, yeah, sure, they have 70 or whatever points, but are they going to be able to shake this depleted Pacers team? Like, they kind of need to win this game after losing the last two, especially after that dud in Toronto, another game without Gordon Hayward. And you come back and you play the Lakers and Clippers nearly back-to-back on the same weekend here at home. So I was hoping they could at least get some separation and close it out. And they did that. Like, LaMelo went on his own mini run, and then the team went on like a 15-2 run. And then it just really exploded. I mean, from my perspective, I'm in the office, working on some other stuff. And every time I look, it's like, oh, they're at 100, though they're at 120. And there's 10 minutes to go in the game. James Bouknight makes it 129. And then, like you said, Kai Jones hitting his first career three-pointer. I mean, just like the human victory cigar, if there ever was one, was right there. And I don't think that's when good old Coach Carlisle made that face, but I'm sure he made a similar one after that Jones bucket.
So I'm glad you have that face up, Doug, because I don't know how many people screenshotted this. I didn't check, but I saw that. I was like, yeah, this is going to be a meme. I mean, this is going to be one that lasts for a while. Look at that face. I mean, it's so sad. Is he doing okay? Has anybody checked in on Rick Carlisle after what just took place last night, allowing 158 points? Your biggest takeaway, Doug, what'd you see last night?
My biggest takeaway is that this was the LaMelo Ball masterpiece that we've been waiting for a few weeks now. We've profiled his struggles with efficiency offensively, and he came through big time tonight, or last night. It's like I'm doing the game recap. Came through big time, and he loves playing the Indiana Pacers. In 4 games this season, I'm going to read these stats to you. He's averaging 28.3 points per game on 56.8% shooting, 57.7% from beyond the arc on 6.5 attempts, 10.5 rebounds, 9.3 assists. He is just a tick away. In 4 games, they've completely swept the Pacers of averaging a triple-double, a huge triple-double, a 28-point triple-double against the Indiana Pacers. He was doing it all, and I love just how crafty he is getting to the rim. He was blowing by those Pacers defenders. Brissett, they just couldn't throw anything at LaMelo Ball to stop him. It was beautiful to see.
Yeah, it really was, and you're right, Doug. I mean, this has been somebody in LaMelo who not only struggled the last, actually didn't crazy struggle the last couple of games, right? It's actually the team that more so did offensively,
Yeah.
but we actually did get to see him go 11 of 16 from the field as his final tally, 3 of 4 from the perimeter, 4 of 5 from the free throw line. 10 rebounds, 13 assists, 29 points. And I tried to figure out what my favorite stat was in the box score for this game because there was obviously going to be a ton of them. How about a plus 45 for LaMelo in the plus-minus column? The next one up from that was 27, was Kelly Oubre was plus 27, and LaMelo was plus 45 to lead all of the players in this game.
I think that's the highest. I believe I read on Twitter that that's the highest plus-minus ever, and that it was second only to Kemba Walker and Marvin Williams in that game where they blew out. It was like one of the largest blowouts in NBA history when they beat the Memphis Grizzlies by 1,000.
I mean, it was unreal to watch this one. And then, so I just hope that this is something that can keep them going, because what's crazy is everybody was making a point that this is the first time that they really got going offensively in the last 2. Didn't show up against Atlanta, just couldn't hit shots. Couldn't hit shots against Toronto, despite them having a couple of players out, and they really took advantage of that against Indiana. And here's something else, too. It's one thing to score 158. It's a pretty crazy thing to score 158. But to do it on the second night of a back-to-back on the road as well, to be able to hit on that type of volume, that's what's really impressive too. I haven't gone down the list of all of the teams that have ever put up 158. I think there's like 20 that put up 159, and then there's quite a bit of teams that put up 158. I would like to know how many teams did it the second night of a back-to-back on the road. That makes it all the more impressive. Nick, do you expect this to do anything for the Hornets going forward? And play, like, is this one that you're always going to remember down the road too? Like, yeah, I remember watching that game. It's a crazy one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always going to stand out, years from now. I think for this season, it doesn't do much for me. Like, it's great that they won. It's great that, hopefully it gets them out of some, slumping, LaMelo and even others. But, the Pacers were a depleted team coming in. I thought they should have won the game, going into the game. It was fun to watch. And, they're just going to be in this. They have to have this dogfight mentality the rest of the way, because it's not going to be easy. I mean, they're sitting in 7th. There's teams chasing them. There's teams ahead of them that are going to try to create more separation. Looking at the next slate or set of games, the only one on there in the next, handful that you think, okay, like that's a win, I think is Detroit. I mean, they come back, they have to face the Lakers and the Clippers at home. And those teams aren't, what they have been in the past, but those are going to be tough games. And then you have more tough games as the East. My favorite stat was I went back and looked at, so the record before 158 for points in regulation for the Hornets was 141, set back in 1993. And I went back to look like, all right, well, who did what in that game? And like LJ had a big game, Muggsy had like 19 assists. But my favorite stat was that they went 1 of 8 from 3.
Yeah.
And it's just such a different game. The Hornets were 24 of 45 from 3 last night. That was my favorite stat. But I think if there's anything you can take from it, I think 2 things. They did it without Gordon Hayward, and that was a struggle for them in the 2 prior games, missing him on offense and the way he settles them and connects them. So they kind of like figured out how they can do that in a way. And then just seeing the ball go in the bucket, because it just really hadn't been going in the last 2 games.
I have a tie I have a 1 and 1A for favorite stats of the game. 1 is going to be the fact that they broke the franchise record for points scored in regulation, and there were 5.5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah. Well,
that was amazing.
And it's funny because they like it's the first time that they've scored this. They broke a franchise record that stood for this long. It stood forever because I mean the franchise here since 88, 89 to put up 140, and you say to do that like in 5.5 minutes with that much time left to go. Yeah, I mean I wanted him to get to 160. I was the greediest dude on planet
almost
Earth
did.
last night. I
They
think all of
tried.
us were.
I love that they tried.
They threw an attempt up. They made an attempt. My second favorite stat, or 1A, is the fact that the Hornets scored 158 points. The starters got major starter minutes. This wasn't a situation where the starters played for a little while and then sat for the entire fourth quarter. Mason Plumlee, 7 points.
Yeah.
Just couldn't get to double figures in a game where the Charlotte Hornets score 158 points.
All of them off reverse dunks. Not really, but it feels like it sometimes.
But we haven't mentioned Kelly Oubre yet. 12 of 18 from the field, 10 of 15 from three. That 10 3-pointers, that's a franchise record off the bench. 39 points. Kelly Oubre, after talk about a guy who's been struggling offensively, I think he's finally back.
Yeah, well, he was back in a big way this game against Indiana. We'll get to more of Kelly Oubre's performance and what he's done off the bench with this team. The other stat, real quickly, there's so many. I wanted to mention this one. What's crazy is that the Hornets score 158. They actually had 2 players who didn't score a single point that got some minutes, JT Thor and Ish Smith. How about everybody that played for Indiana? And it was a lot. They emptied the entire bench. Everybody scored at least 4. It's like Indiana score 126 and the Hornets beat them by 30. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, unbelievable. All right, let's continue to talk about it. More of the record-breaking performances that we saw from individuals and the team as a whole. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as they continue the march to the playoffs and beyond. Anytime the Hornets play the Indiana, make sure you take the over on BetOnline. It remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022, and they have it's a new year, and so they have a new updated desktop and a mobile website, so you can sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and the easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Let's look at more records. Let's look at Kelly Oubre coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You are listening to the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Main character for American Psycho was Patrick Bateman, which really confused me. I always thought that Jason Bateman was Patrick Bateman and that Patrick Bateman
That's a bad mistake.
was Jason Bateman.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.